here to discuss about a profile that came to Shivnadar University for the first time in 2021. Whopping 180 students applied for this profile and only 77 managed to get to the second round. Today we have with us the one student who was able to clear all the rounds of this profile, and of course we are talking here about none other than Meghna Chaudhary, who is currently working as a software engineer in Google, the name we all dream to work for one day.
It is not just sheer luck, hope, and constant motivation, but it takes dedication, immense hard work, and self belief to turn the dreams into reality. And we have with us a living example for this. Meghna Dee joined SNU in the year of 2017, choosing to major in computer science and engineering. Since then, she has maintained a perfect balance between academics and co curricular activities and has successfully aced at them. She appeared in the Dean's List multiple number of times, is the founder and was the design head of Artificial Intelligence Club at Shiv Nada University, and her passion for machine learning and AI helped her in achieving her dreams. She would be graduating this month with flying colors. She's here to help us travel along her journey, relive all the moments, and take a look back at the wonderful experience from campus to corporate. Meghnadi, we welcome you to our first fireside chat. Before we start, I would request all the attendees to stay on mute. You all will get a chance to interact with her towards the end of the session.
So let's go ahead and start the fireside chat with our first question. So, hello Meghnati, what was your first impression of Shivnadar University and why did you opt for CSC in the first place and not any other field in engineering?
Um, so initially, when I chose to go to Shivnada University, I almost had enrolled in VIT at that time, and was actually I traveled to Chennai to attend the session they had held and to pay the initial fee and get myself registered and everything. But over there, someone that like a family that I met there that helped us out when we were kind of stranded at the Chennai campus, unable to find transportation back to our place. So there was this family that helped us out, gave us transportation back, and while we were going back to our place of like the temporary place of residence there, they were the ones who told me about this place called Shivnada University that they've heard about. It's a really nice place and everything. So after that, I looked it up and I found out about this university. And I just really liked the fact that it was so diverse with like multidisciplinary aspects, and it was a much smaller university than in terms of the student population than VIT. So that is kind of the aspect that I really liked about it. I thought it would be a little more personal with the professors and everything, unlike the other options that I had. And as to why I chose CS in particular is because in 11th and 12th I had opted for informatics practices, which essentially was Java, uh, for my additional subject in addition to PCM. And I happened to just really like that subject and the teacher and just everything about it in general. And I really like the thought or the aspect of being able to just solve logical problems and stuff for a career or like for studies. So that is why I chose to take CS.
Okay, great. The story about SNU and how you joined, that was something new. Anyways, then moving to the next question. We know that you are specializing in AI and ML. So, how did you come across it and why did you select it as your niche?
So essentially, when I was in my first year, and had my first brief on SMU, we have this hackathon that happens every year on Brace. So in my first year, a couple of my friends and I had decided to participate in that hackathon. And when we were participating in that hackathon, for some reason, we just came across AI and machine learning, and we thought we could just like that could be a very good addition to the thing that we were trying to make. And we failed miserably at it because we had no idea what AI or ML was essentially, how it worked, how the coding was done. We had no idea, but we were just sort of intrigued by the idea and we thought we could add it to the project that we were working on. But even though I failed miserably there, and sort of we even gave up on working on it and just decided to go back outside and enjoy breeze instead. But that sort of left an impression in my mind, and I really wanted to learn more about it. I was just curious. So, out of curiosity, I just looked it up during my summer vacations and like looked into a couple of courses, etc., on Coursera. And it's not the only thing I did during the summer. I gave myself some time to just sit and sketch or learn a new language. It was just a very fun, free kind of a summer for me. But out of curiosity, I also looked into AI and ML, and I sort of still got more and more interest in the topic as I looked into it. And then I decided maybe I should like do a project in this. It would be so exciting. So I also, at like the end of my summer vacation, tried to contact a bunch of professors to see if they would be interested in doing some research project or something with me.
अबे उनको ना हो जाता है ना
If they were interested in doing any research projects with me. And one of the professors replied positively to that. So that is when I got into AIML, etc. Essentially.
Great. I think that is something that we all will relate to at some point. So for the next question, I like to ask you. So what all clubs did you join in Srinagar University, like during your college years, and were they all related to academics? And do you joining these clubs had an impact in the long run?
Uh, I essentially only joined one other club other than the AI thing that I had later, and that was Kalakriti. During my first year, I did try for other clubs as well, but with like not much success. I tried for the the singing one and also for dramatics and everything, but I didn't really get in. Uh, like for in fact for the dramatics club, I also tried during my second year. So during my first year, I'd done like a small kind of a funny skit with my friend and got rejected. And then I thought, okay, I'll try again the next year. And then I did like a stand-up comedy sort of a whole set. And then I got rejected again. I was like, okay, fine, I'm done with this now. That's enough. Enough trying.
So you already did get insight on your summer vacations for the first year. So what was the general trend for the like other years in SNU, like all the summer vacations? So was it used for relaxation or also for some productive internships and learning new courses, like along the way after your first year?
So just I think a good mixture of both. Basically, I didn't want to just be studying and working the entire time when I am on vacation, technically. But at the same time, so just for example, after the first year, I also tried to learn a new language and try to relearn sketching and stuff like that. So just kind of productive stuff that is also exciting for me. So just anything that I was excited about, anything I wanted to learn more about, and just explore and have fun. That is how I basically treated my summer vacations. So after the first year, I did all of this stuff. After my second year, I guess, um, after second year, so just before the third year, that would be like, I don't remember what I did. I guess, what year would that be? 2019. Not much. I don't remember what I did. So after okay, so after the third year is the one where you're supposed to do an internship, right?
Yes, yes, Hanji.
Yeah, so that's the one where you're supposed to do an internship. So that's when I had applied to a bunch of different places and like tried to interview for things uh, via the CBC placement thing as well, but I didn't really get into anything. But like with the help of some relatives and stuff like that, I sort of got an unpaid internship to do just to get some experience. So that's what I had after my third year.
All right, then moving forward with the next question. By the end of second year, had you decided your minor? And we all know that you chose BMS as your minor. So how did you come to choose specifically BMS?
Essentially, I had like I people were talking about minors and stuff, and I had heard that management is a really good option for people because it sort of diversifies, I guess, what you're studying, and in general, in the future, it will be helpful for you. And I was also interested in doing a design minor because of my interest in artistic stuff as well. So essentially, I had applied for both. And I didn't really see my name, like my name wasn't there in the list for the design thing. And I got the management minor, so that was it. But later I found that the people who had, like my friends who had gone to give the design minor test as well, they said that my name was there in the list as well. So I could have been a design minor as well, but I just became a management minor, I guess.
Acha.
Yeah.
So choosing BMS as your minor, was it
Mhm.
helpful in the later stages? या मतलब credit complete कर लिया that scene?
Credit to complete कर लिया. It wasn't like I had thought that it would be since I was like a registered minor in management, it would be very easy for me to get courses and complete credits and stuff like that. But that turned out to be not that true since I had to go around begging teachers to give me a spot in their class nonetheless. So that was there. But it did sort of diversify my general academic experience since CS is very padhai oriented. You're supposed to solve problems and stuff like that. And on the other hand, management is much more talking and presenting and communicating and so on and so forth. So I think that doing a minor in management did help me in that sense because it helped me get more comfortable in front of people, like in terms of presenting my ideas or thinking on the spot and so on, which was kind of useful when it came to interviews because you are supposed to relax and just think out loud and think on the spot.
Great. Yeah. So coming on to the next major question. So what roller coaster of emotions were you going through the third year, knowing that you have to sit for placements within 1 year and sit for internship interviews through CDC in a few months? So was sitting for placement was always a plan, or you thought for going for higher studies as your primary plan?
So up until August of 2020, going for higher studies was in fact my primary plan. So in my third year, I wasn't that stressed out about having to sit for placements after a year and going through all of that. Though I did want to get into something for like an internship after my third year, just to have something was it's like I don't know, everyone is just supposed to do something after their third year. So that was there. But other than that, there wasn't much stress in general.
Okay, and other than that, so you didn't plan on like going for sitting for placements, but still you had to like build a resume. So what will be your tips to build a perfect resume for these companies and also for the higher purpose of higher studies?
Um, I wouldn't say like there's any one perfect formula to just you do this one, two, three, four things and then you're set for life or something like that. And I would also not say key. I would say don't just get so bogged down on just getting your resume to look nice for placement purposes or higher studies purposes. There's always an element of randomness in all of those processes. So don't just make that your primary goal. Instead, I would say just use this time you have in your university to just explore things, explore what your interests are, try out new things, try out those hackathons you think you're going to fail in. Just go ahead and do it anyway. Just try out things. Maybe you'll find something you like. Maybe you'll find out this is not something you like. But just do some projects. Okay, this particular project, this particular topic is really interesting me. So maybe I'll try out something. So just keep that growth mindset to just try things and explore things, and then your resume will sort of build itself throughout time.
Thank you for this great insight. Right now, I'm sharing that anxiety of like moving into my third year and sitting for that internship interviews through CDC. So yeah, this really helps me too, and I hope this will help the others listening us.
I hope it helps everyone too. But take my advice with a grain of salt because I'm not perfect.
Araman, you are not audible. Right?
You're on mute.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll go ahead with the next question. So, yeah. So, is there anything that you look back as a mistake during all these years, like you feel like that something you should have changed and you want your juniors to avoid?
Uh, I don't know if I think back and like look at anything. Like I don't have a lot of regret at the way I handled things during my time in the university. But just like maybe during my first year, I was very hesitant for trying out hackathons or whatever things that I thought I would definitely fail at. But later on, I realized I got to start somewhere. So maybe as soon as you can, just realize that failure is inevitable. You're going to fail at things. So just let it be and just try things out, explore, enjoy, whatever.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the next question, right now we have like all the third years are my just immediate senior batch. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll be moving to their placement interviews. So
Mm-hmm.
when can a student expect the placement season to start? And since when did you start preparing for interviews? I mean, we did get a little insight about that, but still, when the placement season starts, there's a different change in mindset. So yeah, that I wanted to know about.
So the placement season starts earlier than you think it will start. You'll keep like at least what I did was I kept on procrastinating the time when I start seriously preparing for the placement season, and then I was just one fine day I was informed that this placement season has started. So that was kind of jarring. Oh, like oh, all right, it started already. I didn't expect this to happen so soon. So that's there. But yeah, I personally do not follow my example. I would say in this case because I my first placement in Goldman Sachs I feel was like purely almost like 90% luck because I was not prepared for the interviews at all. I did try a little bit. So in the summer holidays, CDC had this Geeks for Geeks course that they were running for people. So I thought, all right, I can already see that I am not going to put in the time to uh, learn more about the basics of data structures, etc. I don't have that kind of self control. So I'll just try and enroll in this course and at least look at those classes and stuff. So I had that going on for me. I tried to attend as many classes as possible, though they were 2 hours long and it was online, so it was very, very hard to concentrate. And I used to fall asleep all the time because it was in the morning. But I did make it a point that if I did fall asleep early on in the class and miss the entire thing, I would just go and later on in the evening maybe just watch the recording at 2x speed because 2 hours is a lot. 1 hour is still manageable. So I used to do that. So that I think helped me sort of gain a basic idea of data structures and just brush up my knowledge that I had sort of forgotten in my second year after doing the data structures course. So that really helped me. Uh, After that, I thought I'd prepare for the placement season before the placement season starts. But then August came by and the placement season started, and I hadn't really prepared seriously. I looked at a few questions like here and there, like a couple maybe, maximum three, four. But then I stopped. I was like, yeah, I'll start later or whatever, and then this happened. Then the GS entire thing, etc.
Okay. See, one thing which I can say with respect to the online classes, whatever was happening with you is totally relatable to us. नहीं उठा जाता सुबह.
And it's very hard to concentrate. My grades went down. When online classes started, I just couldn't concentrate.
True that. Same case here. But yes, so let's assume that you're right now in your fourth year and CTC is helping you in preparing. So we know that you cracked GS, right? You cracked GS for internship there. So could you go over the process of how you cracked GS? What all rounds did you face?
I think, okay. So basically, the GS first had like an online test which had some coding, some basic questions, MCQs, etc., which was there, which I had given. But there were some technical problems too in terms of submitting the code and other things as well. And it didn't really go that well for me, so I wasn't expecting that I would go through to the interviews at all. So I was just half asleep and listening to whatever the announcement that they were doing the next day for the interviews. And it just so happened that I got through to the interviews, and I was legit sad about it because I was not prepared at this time. So my GS journey is just, it's not a good example for anyone. I'm telling you in advance. It is not a good example for anyone. You are not going to learn anything from my GS ka placement journey because I was totally unprepared. And I was sad that I got through to the interviews because that meant I'll have to sit through interviews during the day and I won't be able to go back to sleep as I was planning to after listening to the announcement. But then I got through, and then in the limited amount of time, I did try to look at stuff, like to brush up whatever knowledge I had uncovered during the summer course. But I don't think it was very useful because it was like a very short amount of time, and then the interview started. But during the interviews, I think partly because I thought that I was definitely not going to get through, I was very, very chilled out about it and very relaxed during the interviews because मुझे पता था इसमें तो होने नहीं वाला, but practice की तरह कर लेते हैं was my mindset at that time. So I gave the interviews, and first there were, for most people I think there were 2 rounds, and for me there were 3 rounds of interviews because at the end they weren't quite sure and they did another round of talking with me. So the first round, or they asked a couple of questions, and it like if I had prepared at that time, I would have known that these are very known questions and relatively easy questions that I would be able to solve immediately. But since I was not prepared, I had to kind of think on the spot, and I just was kind of able to work out a logic for it. And it just so happened that the interviewer was kind of satisfied with the explanation that I had given because I was thinking out loud at all of the stages and just explaining whatever was going on in my mind. And the interviewers kind of always try to nudge you in the right direction if you just listen to them and keep on thinking out loud. So that uh, all combined, I was able to give them a logical explanation, and the interviewer just happened to be kind of satisfied with it, and he was like, "Okay, you don't need to write code now," which was good for me because I would have been very slow at writing code because I had not practiced or like done anything at all. So the first round went by, and I got through to the second round. I was very surprised. Again, the same thing happened. They asked more questions, slightly more difficult or slightly different. And again, I gave logical explanations. And at one point, I even got stuck. And I sort of tried to again think on the spot and give like a very vague general direction I was thinking of going in, which I really, if the interviewer had asked me how you're going to solve it using this particular data structure that you're naming, I would not have been able to answer them. But I just named it, and they were like, yeah, okay, it makes sense to me. Let's move on to the next question. So I was so happy. Oh, great, not asking me more details. So basically, I got through to 2 rounds, and then the third round was less focused on data structure questions and more on just the general projects that I had done and some hypothetical questions on perhaps if you want to work on, if you work are given this kind of a problem, how would you solve it, or what kind of stuff have you done in your internship in the past and stuff like that. So that was more in my wheelhouse and I was able to get through.
Okay, so GS came to SNU in which month during your time?
August.
August. So they started the interviews in August, and all the rounds that you had were a mix of personal interview and technical interview.
Yeah. With the first two interviews being more focused on the technical part, and the third one was more focused on past projects and stuff like that.
Okay. All right, then moving to the next question. How did you keep yourself calm and composed in this pressure time, specifically when the pandemic was going on?
Well, I just, it was what it was. I tried to kind of just look at the positives about it. I'll be sitting in my home. I don't have to go anywhere and nervously wait to give the interview. I just tried to sort of focus on the positive points and use them to my advantage. And that's it. I wasn't really super bothered by the fact that the interviews were gonna be virtual. In fact, I was a little more comfortable talking to my computer than to someone like sitting in front of me and judging what I'm writing on the spot. But I was kind of comfortable with it already. Plus, like during the GS interviews or whatever, because since I was not prepared properly and it was happening um, virtually, I figured I could keep like little sticky notes of stuff that I want to remember and stick them to the laptop if I want to have a look at something that I forget or some whatever. Like I, for example, I knew that asked me about my past projects and stuff, so I had made a small list on a sticky note and stuck it just right beside me. So if I get stuck somewhere while trying to tell them what all I've done in my life, I can just refer to it and be like, oh yeah, next I did this. So just look for the positives in the situation. There are a lot of them, and it's your own home. You're sitting in your chair in front of your own laptop with sticky notes around yourself. You won't be that nervous as you would be when you're sitting outside some office trying to wait and see, okay, I'm next. What am I going to do? The other person goes out of the room in front of you crying. Oh my God. So all of that is removed. So it's kind of better in a way, if you see.
So coming to the main placement, so like you got placed in Google, and as we all know that Google placement process is like very long and very tiring with many uncertainties along the way. So would you please like explain that the process?
Okay. So the Google placement process was like around it lasted around 4.5 months for me. And it began essentially in September. I had like one of the recruiters had reached out to me in June as well that if you're interested, give us your resume. But that was more of a general thing that they do. They just send out stuff to all of the like as many possible undergrads as they can. So that was there. But in September, I gave the online coding exam that was there, and that they did say that it was optional and it wasn't like a compulsory component of their evaluation. But it went terribly for me because there were two questions in that online exam, and from what I had heard online, you would be considered to have done that well if you are able to complete both of those questions, and I couldn't even complete one. So, and like it wasn't even a compilable code because I kept on going back, changing things. So it was just kind of an incomplete code that I had submitted to them. So after this horrendous performance, I was 100% sure that they would not be calling me for interviews. And I was fine with that. But in mid-September, I did get a call from a recruiter in Google. And she said that we would like to call you up for interviews. So before that, of course, they asked me like a couple of very basic data structure screening questions just to see that if I'm even a viable candidate to give a technical interview. And I was able to answer those because those are very, very basic. If you're a CS student, you'll be able to answer those. And then she said that I be given a phone interview round first. So before that, they actually gave me around 4 weeks, 4 weeks to prepare. So I had plenty of time to prepare before that, and I tried to like give as much time that I could. Basically, in my mind, what I was thinking was that I know that I'm not going to get into this. I know, like, for sure, I'll give this interview, and that's it. That's the end for you. But at the same time, it was like, okay, I just don't want to look back at this time and be like, maybe अगर मैंने थोड़ा और कर लिया होता तो type. I didn't want to regret it. So just barely, just because of that, I was preparing for it. So I gave my best, like whatever time I had with the semester also going on, I prepared for it and I gave the interview in October. And it was a phone interview with some guy from Texas, and he asked me a question, and like mainly it was just one coding question and then like a follow up or whatever, but it just happened to be very similar to some coding question that I had seen earlier when I was on my quest to gather knowledge. So since it was this similar and I had time to think about it previously, I was able to work it out in that given amount of time and write the code for it, which was not perfect. And like after doing some more preparation, I could look back at it and think, okay, yeah, this is where I went wrong. This is the stuff that was just extra. It was a roundabout way of doing things, but I got it done, and like it was an optimal solution and all of that. So after this interview, I got the call from my recruiter, and she said that I had been passed, but like it was a borderline pass. After having known the question, it was a borderline pass. So I was like, okay, fine. Now she's like, you'll have to prepare a lot, and the good thing about the Google process was that they gave me particular feedback for points that I thought I could improve more and work on. So I took that feedback and I worked particularly, tried to focus on that right at this time. Again, I was 100% sure that I was not gonna get through the three on-site interviews that they were giving me in the first place again, because how could I? It's Google. I've just been borderline passed. My recruiter is also telling me that I need to prepare, and how is it possible? I can't get through, but fine. I don't want to regret it. I'll give it some time. So I prepared for the three interviews, on-site interviews that were there for me. I had three interviews back to back on the same day. Now, the first two interviews went pretty well. I was able to logically like talk everything out and solve it and write the code for it and do everything that was required. But in the third interview, thankfully it was a third interview and not the first interview, because then it would have sort of killed my morale for the other two. But in the third interview, I tried to like work with the interviewer on the solution, but I wasn't able to completely reach the final optimal solution. So again, I was pretty sure, fine, since I have not been able to reach the optimal solution, there's no way that I'll be passed on to do more on-site interviews. And again, I waited for a couple of weeks, and they gave me. I again received feedback from my recruiter. This time, my recruiter had been changed for the on-site interviews. It was this person from South Korea, which which I thought was pretty cool. But yeah, so she told me that basically the feedback that I got, I had improved on the point that they had told me about my weak points earlier, which I thought was good. And surprisingly, she said that you did get some mixed feedback, which I knew where she was coming from because the third interview I kind of watched. But since you got mixed feedback, you will get a fourth interview now, a fourth fully technical interview. And if you do well in this, then you can go to the Googliness interview. So again, I tried to prepare for it, but it was like this time it wasn't even multiple interviews. It felt like like my the entire verdict of the process lies on this one interview. And if it goes bad, it goes bad. If it goes well, it goes well. But again, it's like while I was trying to prepare for it, its data structure is just such a infinite field. There's so many things to study from. So every time I used to just stop the night, like a little bit before the night before the interview, to be like, okay, I can just go on looking at stuff forever. I think I've done enough for now. If I get through, I get through. If I don't get through, I don't get through. I probably won't get through, but it's fine. So I gave the fourth interview and it went well. And in a couple of days, I got the feedback, and my interviewer, my recruiter said that I will be going through the Googliness interview. This was, I felt that, okay, I'm done with all of my technical interviews now. I don't have to give technical interviews anymore in my life, right now at least. And Googliness interview was relatively simpler to prepare for. I just looked at what kind of stuff they ask, and just to get sort of an idea so that I don't get all flustered when they do ask questions during the interview. And that was that. And a week later, I gave that interview as well. Then again, I waited for a couple of weeks for the verdict. Basically my entire profile as a package went to a committee which was supposed to evaluate it, and I thought I was totally prepared to get a no. And like there was a 1% chance, maybe I've done good enough and I get a yes. Those were the two options that I was completely prepared for. And then the day came and they gave me the result, and it was neither a yes nor a no. They wanted me to give more interviews. So now, after having thought that I was done with interviews for the time being, I was given two more interviews and they were supposed to be technical. And at this point, again, I was very irrationally sad about it because I didn't get a straight up no. Because क्यों मेरे से इतनी मेहनत कर रहे हो? Just give me a no if you don't want to take me, and it's fine. I was prepared for that. I was mentally prepared for a no. I was not mentally prepared to give more interviews. So after giving myself to irrationally grieve about it for a couple of days, I started like I thought I brushed up my concepts again because it had been a while since I gave the last interview. So I brushed up my concept again, tried to look at stuff again, and then finally the day came where I had two interviews again, one after the other almost. I gave the first interview and it was just perfect. I was able to find out I was able to get to the logic, get the code done, answer the follow-up questions, the mini follow-up questions, write the code for the mini follow-up questions, and I was just beyond happy about it. And the second interview started, and the interviewer was facing some issues with connectivity. And the question that he gave me, I couldn't really think of an answer. So first, I tried to think about it, and I came up with one direction, and I tried to take that direction during the interview. And the interviewer was sort of pushing me in another direction. And like in the advice that my recruiter had given me, she had said to be learnable, I guess. So I tried to learn and like just pick up on what the interviewer was trying to tell me, and he just seemed to be trying to nudging me so hard towards one direction and like really trying to explain his solution to me almost. So I tried to understand it, and then I was able to understand it and give the time complexity for it, but I hadn't really written any code towards that solution, just a little bit of a basic code that was in my direction. So again, this was a total flop. In my mind, it was a total flop. And I thought, okay, I told my mom the second interview was just bad and I'm not getting through, so don't hold out hope for me. But I'm not getting through. I already know it. So again, after this, also, this was near the end of December, and the year was like during the year end, it had like they have some logistical things to take care of. So they were taking a lot of time to come back with an answer to me, and I was just waiting in agony, thinking कि मना ही करने वाले हो. I know, but officially मना कर दो ना मुझे, मैं क्यों wait कर रही हूँ? So, and plus my recruiter also just happened to go on a 2 week vacation as soon as January started. And again, I was stuck without answers and I was trying to email her and ask her if there are any updates. Like just officially tell me no and be done with it. But then, like around late January, she came back to me and she said that she actually called me on the phone later, I guess. But basically, hi Meghna and everything. It was a very weird email. It started with a very neutral tone, and I was ready to read the next line which said, okay, sorry, we're not going forward with it, but it was congratulations, you got through. So that was very, very shocking to me because I was 100% certain that I was not going to get through. So basically, that was there, and I talked to my recruiter again. She said this is not the end of the journey. There's still the team matching process left. And then a couple of weeks later, she was like, "Okay, no team matching for you. We're just taking you in without a team." And that was
Okay, so yeah, as I said, this was a very long and tiring journey. So, was there any moment when you had completely lost hope? I think there were multiple hearing about it. So, who or
yeah.
what kept you motivated and going towards it?
I think mainly it was just that okay, even if I know in my mind right now that I'm not gonna get through, I don't want to look back at this and be like, okay, I gave up here and I could have given it a little more time, or like maybe I could have tried to prepare or something. Basically, it was just the fear of future regret that kept me going. Essentially, I didn't want to regret stuff later, so I was preparing for things.
Okay, yeah. So, Ariman,
So,
yeah.
yes, so for every attendee that is here, we would like to bust a big myth, and that would be that Google has started coming to campus for placement. So hers was the first batch which got to appear on campus for the Google interview. So we got many questions on the form which were asking us how can we start preparing for off-campus placements, and we just made it very clear that you don't have to worry about off-campus because the CDC team is working very hard and we have Google on board. So now we should start preparing for on-campus placements. All right then, moving forward with the next question. We are aware that Google hires for technical big time. But now that you're working there, are there any non-technical profiles as well? Could you tell us a little about it?
Yeah, well, there are a lot, like there are non-technical profiles as well. I think the Gurgaon office of Google is just mainly non-technical profiles because technical profiles, etc., work either from the Hyderabad office or the uh, Bangalore office. So the other locations, I think, for Google, which are there, more, there are more. Those are not basically for technical profiles, those are for non-technical profiles. And I don't really have much insight into this, though I did meet one person who was sort of the talent engagement person that I interacted with, and she, in her introduction, did say that she joined Google straight out of college, and she was studying economics, and she did like an internship from in Google in the Gurgaon office in sales first, and then now she's in talent engagement and management and things like that. So there are non-technical roles as well.
All right then. So we have a first question in the chat
Mhm.
box, and that would be, how did you start your coding journey, and what was your first language?
Well, I started my coding journey in 11th, and this was also unintentional partially because I was trying to get uh, PCM with economics. And that year in my school, there just happened to be so few people who wanted that combination that they were like, sorry, no, we can't give this combination anymore. So I just uh, chose informatics practices instead. I didn't really think about it, I just chose it. So that is where my coding journey started essentially, and it started with Java.
So the next question in the chat is, how should we practice coding from placement point of view?
From placement point of view, it it will be different for different people, I guess. But what I would say is be a little smart about your preparation, because I feel like I have heard people uh, be like, okay, I'll sit and do 2 hours of coding non-stop and every day for 2 months and I'll become an expert. And that's just not how it works. You're going to have to map stuff out, look at all the just look at the basic areas that you want to cover, the various data structures or whatever major sections that you want to cover and plan it out. So work smart and don't work hard. Just plan stuff out. Okay, these are the areas that I want to cover. And as in when you dig into material, you'll find maybe leak code, maybe YouTube or whatever. I personally found YouTube better for me because I find it easier to learn in like a video format, and I find it very difficult to concentrate and read the explanation someone has written in words. So YouTube was like a quick information pool for me where I could just sort of absorb stuff and hear people explain things. So just plan out things, just sort of compartmentalize things, and then uh, take some time, evaluate, okay, this is the area that I seem to be kind of lost in, or this is the area that I don't know much about, and just work accordingly. There's no need to just spend hours and hours randomly working away on questions. Instead, try to get as much knowledge as you can in a systematic manner. You don't even have to solve things completely unless you're particularly practicing writing code. Just as long as you know the logic, I guess, of a question, that's also good enough sometimes. It's different for different people. And the more you look at code that other people have written, you sort of figure out, oh, okay, this is a very efficient way of writing something that I was taking so many lines to write, or something like that. I think that's it.
So there was this one question in the form, which was very interesting, and that would be, what is your suggestion regarding research papers? And if you wrote any, how would you go about it?
I did do an undergraduate research project in my uh, third year, I think. So third year, yeah, I think so. The third year. So I guess then that whatever. Okay, so I I don't really remember the exact timeline, but I did a research project, and I did try to write like a research paper as well, and I tried to submit along with like another person that was working with me. We tried to submit the research paper a couple of different times, but we didn't quite succeed at it. Um, so it's how would I go about writing it? I guess it depends upon the research paper. I don't know what exactly the question is asking here. Like, what
How
do I
should you like,
answer?
how should you start, make your first move towards a research paper?
I guess just explore again whatever you want, what subject you want, what subject you like, and reach out to people who would know more about it. For example, I reached out to professors, and you'll be surprised to see that some professors, even without any experience from your side, would be willing to help you out and work on stuff with you. And if not professors, you can also reach out to your seniors who you know have worked on projects before, and I am sure they would love to have some help in doing things that they don't want to maybe. But in any case, you will get some experience, they'll get help. It's a win-win situation. Just reach out to people if you can't do it on your own. At least you won't be able to at first, I guess. So reach out to people who have experience.
Acha, to every attendee that is here, I would request you to vote on the questions that are coming in the chat box so that we can address something which is relatable to you at first. And moving to Sanskar's question now, most of us have heard of data structures and projects, and they're indeed very important for placements. But what else do you think should we be looking at? Maybe topics like COA and etc.
I don't think there's like anything particular that you need to be looking at. Data structures is important simply because that's what they tend to focus on in interviews. But in general, I won't say there's any one particular topic that you need to look at or you need to do. I hate and repeating myself over and over, but like just explore things and find out things that interest you, do projects, gain some experience. That is the kind of experience that you'll be able to talk about later in an interview setting, or maybe that's the stuff that you'll be able to put in your resume. Or if not any of that, at least you'll learn something and then you'll do something else after that. So just don't be There's nothing particular that you have to do or you have to see or any particular steps you have to follow, but do what pleases you and just keep a growth mindset.
Great. So moving on to the next question in the chat box. So Shashwat is asking, you have worked on ML and AI. So has it played any role in the entire process, or did you have to do something else now that you're a software engineer in Google?
So I have started working in Google last week, and I'm not even through with all the formalities, etc. I haven't received my equipment, the laptop that they're going to send, where I'm going to set up my profile. But it's not necessary that if I'm interested in ML, they'll immediately just give me something that has something to do with ML. But you have experience in this certain area, you can, once you join after that, I guess you can explore, you can uh, just try to see if you can be shifted to something that's more aligned with your interest, or try to work on something that's more aligned with your interest. So it's not necessary that I'll directly be, I guess, at least in my internship, I wasn't asked to do ML AI related tasks in Goldman Sachs. So it's not necessary that I'll be put into this. But I guess it has played a role in that it has added some experience in my life, that it kind of shows, okay, I took some time out from my summer to learn more about the topic out of curiosity, would give more of an impression, okay, maybe this person is interested in learning new things, would be able to learn new things, has that kind of a mindset that's positive or whatever. But yeah.
So Kabir in chatbox has said goosebumps, fascinating story, and he's also talking about the interviews and the anxiety. He has asked, use this word interviews के बारे में सुन के anxiety हो गई. So what do you advise for that anxiety? And like that's natural and it comes to everyone at some point. So is there any platform or something that you enjoy doing to help that anxiety or something?
Anxiety, I guess anxiety, so it's natural, as you said, hoti hai. Especially not as much during the interview, because then you're busy trying to concentrate on the question and trying to just talk out loud and everything else. But before the interview, I guess, at least for me, it's worse before the interview than it is during the interview. So at least the night before the interview or whatever, if I feel anxious about it, I just stop preparing after a point. At least, like, I don't sit late at night to prepare for the interview that I have the next morning. Because, as I said, data structures is such an infinite field. If I try to keep digging up stuff, I'll keep on getting new stuff thrown at me. And all that new information just the night before will just end up making me more anxious. So what I did do was just sort of resign and like just try to think, okay, I know I have done as much as I wanted to in the past few days, and it's not like studying right now is going to help me anymore. So I just try to just chill out, relax. I've done as much as I could, and whatever will happen next is going to be during the interview. So before that, I don't need to think about it. I don't need to do anything related to it. Just do whatever I want to. Watch something on Netflix, watch random YouTube videos, or play Call of Duty. I don't know, anything.
All right. So moving on to the next question, which has been asked by Aryan. Is competitive coding a must for placements?
No, competitive coding is not a must for placement. I was not into competitive coding at all. But if it is something that you are interested in, go ahead, try it out, do competitive coding. But it's not something that is essential for you to be able to do well in placements. It's just a little bit of preparation before the interviews, or like for a certain period of time, or whichever whatever is good for you. But you don't really have to go into competitive coding to be able to do interview questions, and the environment and everything is also not the same in any way. when you're writing code for competitive coding, it's very different from when you're writing code during an interview, because you're interacting with another human being. You're expected to express whatever thoughts that are there in your mind, continuously spell out your logic for the interviewer, and at the same time you also have another person who's kind of trying to help you reach the right direction and the right point. So it's very, very different from competitive coding in many, many aspects. So like, you don't have to go for competitive coding.
So Abhishek is here with the next question, and he's asking, initially you wanted to go for masters, but what made you change your mindset and you started to prepare for placements?
Well, I was gonna sit for placements anyway, because again there was some amount of randomness involved. Even if I apply to masters, there's a chance I might not get in. So, and I was a little bit open to it, that maybe I'll go for placements after that. But it was more of a secondary objective for me. But I was open to it, and I was going to sit for placements anyway. But in 2020, of course, everything changed because of the entire pandemic that hit us, and the pros and cons involved kind of shifted. And I had to keep in mind that maybe if I go for masters in 2021, I might end up having to do some sort of like online learning, maybe, or uh, will they take people from India? What all will go on? And at the same time, I got into Goldman Sachs, which which was like a great place where I could gain experience before making the decision to go for MS or maybe management or PhD or whatever I want to do. Some experience could help me make that decision in a more informed manner as well. So after talking to my relatives and like some of my relatives who are in the field, I came to the conclusion that it was better for me to sort of defer my plans for going for later studies, higher studies for later, and get some experience first.
Okay. So then I asked you a question related to research paper, and we have someone who wrote that question and is giving a clarification about what he wanted to know. And he has written that, do you need to get after the professor and ask him or her to give a topic?
In my case, of course you'll have to put in effort from your side. You won't just be in most cases you won't be handed a topic, or maybe if the professor is working on something already, they might be willing to include you in that project. Then that will be a different case. But in my case, the professor that I had contacted wasn't really working on anything particular currently that he could include me in. So it was like an open discussion that we had initially, with a lot of back and forth, a lot of research into topics that I might be interested in, topics that we could look into further. So there was a sort of back and forth in my case, where the professor was also providing some ideas or some areas that I might be interested in looking into, and I myself was also trying to find out areas that I would be interested in looking into, and then sort of brainstorming essentially.
Okay. So now we would be going over the last question, which has been asked by Kavya. And that is, aside from coding and CS, if a person also has experience in other fields, such as marketing or mechanical engineering competitions, then
Mhm.
does that count during interview? And can it actually be beneficial?
I I I can't say for sure because I haven't been on the other side of the interviewing process. I've only been on the interviewing side. I'm not the interviewer. But if I think about it, at least like in the perspective of how much leadership experience you have, or in general experience in building up the person that you are right now, I think it would be of help directly or indirectly that you do get some experience in other activities that you are passionate about or you're interested in. So maybe you're leading your team or are an important member in the a mechanical related subject or something in the arts, anything. But I think at least to some degree, directly or indirectly, it should help.
Okay, so there's this another question. Sorry, we said that will be the last question, but yeah, this they are saying how often this advanced DSA like segment trees are asked.
I don't think segment trees, etc., would be Arctic, not the very advanced stuff. Uh, just more of the basic stuff. They basically want to see how you're able to logically build arguments and use your knowledge. So they're not really looking for you to have gained some obscure knowledge or like very advanced knowledge about data structures, as far as I was able to tell from whatever preparation I tried to do. So advanced topics like segment trees won't really be included if you're able to. Most of the questions that they ask, or in fact all of them, would be solvable by using more basic data structures. Probably.
Okay, so yeah, I would like to invite Aparna ma'am now from CDC to give the concluding remarks. Please unmute if you're here.
Uh, Thank you, Danish. This has been really very formal and I really liked it. Um, the concluding remark, I'm actually in a mix of feeling currently. I am thrilled. The first important feeling that I'm having is, secondly, I'm really, like Kabir already said, I am feeling anxious equally because I've gone through whatever Meghna has said in an equal manner during the whole campus process of Google. Of course, she has been very kind and humble in saying that she hasn't prepared, but I know how hard she has been working and the kind of platform she has already suggested, the kind of ways that she has already suggested all of you, to take care of and probably look at that chill mode on, but then simultaneously not to regret in a later manner and ensuring you are putting all your efforts at the right space. So this is what we have already learned. She has already helped us know a lot of insight from the Google, which includes non-technical profiles also. And we hope that this year, when we do a campus process, we have multiple roles apart from SDE, that a primary focus from all the technical interviews that we bring to the campus, especially for the BTechs. And BTechs, I mean all BTechs. I does not mean to CSE. But then Meghna, you have been really strong, a strong support in giving us an insight about how the journey has been. This whole pandemic has changed the world, the thought process, and we all were seeing it as a one barrier. But then the way you think that it's not a barrier, it's more of a comfort zone, and then probably attending things from A to Z all at your comfort zone is something a very different purview, which give us a learning that opportunity in every situation is something you should always look at. And I will be more happy in ensuring that we have more conversations with you. I'm sure all these students will be now coming back to you on a personal conversation where, of course, your time is at a crunch, but you would want to definitely answer a few of their questions wherein mostly we have covered, but then we can get connected on more platforms with your convenience, definitely. But then simultaneously, I'm equally happy on all the students who have joined and hear the conversation, given their all thoughts. And yes, to the young brigades of the team, the placement committee, part of CDC, wherein they had this idea of bridging the gap, wherein the students are directly coming to a platform and asking their very own senior students about the anxiety questions, about the situations, about the new all. So this is all about from my side. Thank you, Meghna. Thank you for all, and thank you, students, for for a gracious presence and bombarding us with the questions. It is actually making us really beautiful and giving us a feeling that we should do more such chapters, and we should ensure that we are bringing more favorite ones for you. You all can keep suggesting us what we all can include and probably can help us on. And yes, I would want to give it back to Aryaman and Tanish. And thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. And Meghnati, just one last question, because I don't think we would get this opportunity again. So,
No
can there's a question which goes like, can we get into data roles in placement interviews apart from software development engineer?
I don't really have any insider knowledge on this. you're gonna have to like look at the Google career site and just search for the particular things that you're looking for, and you'll probably get much more information from there. I personally don't really know much more about this.
Can I answer that question?
Sure, ma'am, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this question is by Jagannath Verma Kalandani, right? So definitely we have more roles that comes, but then as the primary roles that comes are usually software developer engineers, but we have more data oriented roles also, which includes discuss this more closely with your CDC advisor to get an understanding that which are the organizations which will offer these kind of roles. If you talk specifically about Google or Goldman Sachs, with the campus processes, every year a empanelment happen for certain roles, and whatever performance that institution gives for that particular year, they open multiple roles for the coming years. So this is what is the usual process of campus hiring is. So Meghna has already given us a proud moment by Goldman Sachs with our past alums, and with this year definitely Google has already taken her. We have various other profiles also which are coming us, which I'm expecting. So I'm sure data roles are also there. But then more closer discussion with the CDC advisor will help you to know that what all you can bring on. And I'm up for that. So ensure that you're coming and meeting us.
So thank you so much, Meghnadi, for such a wonderful and informative session. Uh, we would always we would also like to thank all those who attended the session and made it a success. We were really thrilled by the attendance we had. And lastly, we would like to thank all the team members without whose support this event wouldn't have turned out like this. And yes, we will come back with the second chapter soon, so stay tuned.